my question is basically how would you suggest secular parents go about explaining religious traditions and the respect a lot of people demand for them? Because when I was a kid, I was raised by secular parents, and I went to this, camp in the summer, as kids do, and we were about 13, 14, and this girl had a dead guy speared on a cross around her neck. Now, I didn't know that was a crucifix. Now I know it's a crucifix.
Oh, my.
But I asked her where she got the necklace, and she was like, my mom gave it to me for my 13th birthday. And my response was, because it was a dead guy bleeding around her neck. Oh, that's weird. And she avoided me for the entire rest of the camp. And later I learned what a horrible faux pas I had made in my ignorance of what a crucifix meant.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you suggest parents teach their children that some people believe other? What's the best way that you think that someone like me who is going to also raise her kids in a secular manner should go about, making kids aware of these differences so they maybe don't make the same mistake I did?
Yeah.
Look
at the fantastic story you got out of not knowing, though. I mean, would you deny your child this amazing story? Seriously. Dale, would you like to handle the beginning here?
Sure. I think the approach to this folds in nicely with the approach to diversity generally. I mean, what you want to do is raise children who are respectful of diverse ways of living and diverse traditions and so on in other ways. And there really doesn't have to be a difference between respecting a religious diversity and respecting cultural diversity. That's just they're folded together. You want kids to recognize that the place that the line is drawn is when anyone is asking you to change your behavior or your beliefs or impinging on your freedoms. That's where the line is drawn. And then they're able to say, well, no, if you're requiring me to bow my head or requiring me to give money to your church or whatever it is, that's where the line is drawn. But if someone has another expression that doesn't impinge on your rights, then they should really treat it in the same way that they treat other aspects of cultural diversity. And it should be, you can help them recognize that a respectful approach is best. And again, assuming that it also doesn't harm other people, beyond yourself. But if it's just a harmless expression like that, carrying around the dead guy on a stick, then...
I'm sorry, that's funny.
I'm never going to forget that. That's awesome.
Yep.
But I really think that I think sometimes we try to separate it out from cultural diversity, and it really doesn't need to be. It's a very similar thing. You draw the lines when it is harmful to people. And short of that, it's something that you can respect and allow. And it's interesting, I tried to help my kids understand, to see it as anthropology, to just go, wow, that's really cool. I think I told the story last time. I think I was telling the story of my youngest when she was, 6 or 7 years old in the cafeteria and discovered that her friend was Hindu. And she said, oh, so your family believes the elephant head god. Is that right? And the girl said, yes. And Delaney said, that's so cool. I don't believe any of that stuff. So it was like a two-part thing. That's so cool, and I don't believe any of that, and it was fine. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't.
That's
she wasn't
awesome.
Saying, you will believe the elephant head god. It's she was able to just sort of say, hey, that's cool anthropology.
I just want to make sure I get this out that Linnea, your response to seeing that necklace was absolutely appropriate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the thing. I'm not worried. I work in a very diverse environment, and that's one of the things that excites me the most is that I'll be able to I grew up in a very homogenous city, and I'll be able to raise my kids someday around an incredible group of people from very diverse backgrounds. I guess it's just there's some things that are so deeply ingrained into culture, or at least other people's perspectives, that everyone should already know.
Well, yeah, but I think that I understand that you're trying to be protective, but I think that as kids grow up, especially in diverse communities like you're doing with yours, that a lot of that they figure that out so well on their own, and just the message.
It'll happen organically, right?
Yeah, and also when Dale was saying, it doesn't have to necessarily be education about, religious people may act this way or that way. I'm sure that you and most parents that are aware parents will be naturally teaching that message that this world is full of all kinds of different folks, and you're going to find that there are other people that are very different than we are, and I think it. When I think back to how I raised my daughter, none of this was really very structured or thought out. I just was open to her having her experiences, and for her to express herself. And I think then, I don't think she's ever had a situation where she just was made to feel shameful because she said the wrong thing, or, I think that I don't think you have much to be concerned.
I also was raised, I also grew up and went to a strict Catholic school. And if you didn't know the rules, I guess my worry would be should I bother, telling my kids, these are the rules that other people follow? Should I educate them on what the rules are for others? I just don't want them to get, feel left out because they didn't know some bizarre.
It's not going to happen if they have you as a parent, honestly. It comes up in all sorts of ways. Like I've said before, and I think I've told this story twice, but it bears repeating. We were stuck in a hotel, nothing to read. I had forgotten our books that we usually read, and I remembered, there's always one book in the hotel room. And we read Genesis together, and it was hilarious because you can go through this and they'll be like, what is this book? And this is a holy book that a lot of people believe is the inerrant word of God, and it has all these stories in it, and, they will ask questions. It's going to come up.
Great.
Yeah, you just take opportunities. Driving down the street, Dale has a story about this, about seeing a mosque and going, oh, what's that, etc. The opportunities come up all the time. When my in-law, go ahead. Oh,
I was just going to say, on family vacations, I would always count the churches because it floored me as a little kid. Why are there so many churches in a small town? There's more churches than schools, and it doesn't look like there's enough population to sustain them. Why don't people just? It's kids ask those questions.
They're quibbling over one little small thing in each thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think about how difficult it might be for a child that's from a different culture, that's being raised in something really unfamiliar to them. That is the normal. When you think about, what it must be like for a child who, say a child of color, to be growing up in a small all-white community, or a Muslim kid that's in our country and they're not in a Muslim community, they're just, feeling like, just weird or something. And so I think a great lesson from all of this, and what you're thinking about is not so much about, well, let's not make the people that have their own community feel like they're fine, because they probably already do feel fine. I think a great lesson is to look for or spot or learn to recognize children who are actually the other, who are maybe the outcast in some way and not like everybody else, and go up to that child and engage with him or her.
Yeah.
So that I think is even more important to teach kids than to worry about how they may say the right or wrong thing. I think you can't really head off every.
I think we're kind of coming at the same thing because you're saying, learn to recognize that being different or, not following in with every, single norm.
Yeah, an example of your friend with the necklace was she was not in her community where it's normal to be wearing dead people on crosses around your neck. She was out of her area. And the reason why that was a difficult situation, in my view, is because she was raised in such a way that everyone, that children are made to feel like they have to be this one thing.
Yeah.
That's not a healthy way to raise kids.
Mm-hmm. No, that's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by the time my kids were
that's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for her almost, because of her having to. Yeah.
By the time my kids were 6 and 7, which is the supposed age of reason in the religion that my in-laws believe, they expressed concern, which is fine. If they weren't concerned about my children, I would think that odd. This is their everlasting soul, and if you don't care about that, why don't you love my kids? So asking this is a perfectly fine thing. But I was able to say to my in-laws, yeah, my kids, I'm teaching them about Jesus and Buddha and any other religion, all the myths of the Greek stuff, so that...
I'm so sorry. A motorcycle just went by my house.
Oh, my. Wow. That's fine. It's fine. I was just like, wow, that's impressive how loud that was. So that when they were kind of immunized against any sort of thing that could have been introduced to them. If they had only ever heard about Jesus, they wouldn't be able to make that, have that conversation safely.
I think it's great to do that. My favorite class in Catholic school was world cultures because we actually got to look at other religions and, we didn't really look at them in depth. But it was, or compare their mythologies to Catholicism, which is kind of disappointing because that's a really great way to take things. But it was a really, really good experience to be exposed to all these different cultures and their different moral tales.
Absolutely.
And systems.
I think it's also important, and kids naturally learn this as they get older, that, there's not one code of conduct for one religion.
Right, right.
As they get older, they're going to learn, wait, there are those people who are of this religion who worship in a much more extreme way. Then there are others in the same religion who are way more liberal. And wait, I can talk to the liberal folks a lot easier, And so they start to create, discover that nuance and what they feel more comfortable being with. Yeah.
Right on. I hope this helped.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it did. And I'm thinking that maybe, I don't want to call it a mistake, but maybe what would have been good is when I had, my Greek myths next to my Bible stories, it would have been good to give me a little context that some people actually do believe this when I was a kid. Because my mother is she's a wonderful lady, but she's very tough on what she sees as BS. Let's put it that way. So I was just raised with, that's not true.
Yeah.
And, there's different ways to thank you for giving me some advice and a roadmap.
Yeah, that's why secular parenting is a thing. Giving that roadmap is what we need to do for children who are going to be raised in a very religious world. And if you don't,
So thank you for your
lots
question.
Of things. Yeah, it's an excellent question, right? Thank you so much for calling, Linnea.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Take care.